Army hat.
Oh,
1 sec.
you're up.
Oh, all right. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Bold Call Fantasy Football Pod. My name is Kevin Allen, aka the Geek, and we are taking a look at AFC Draft Sleep Cut. Like, we're going team by team, draft sleep cut.
That is not what that. By the way, that's not what we're doing at all.
Sleepers,
we're doing draft them, avoid them, and sleepers on every AFC team.
I want to tune it into that, but we can't. Like, the game we're playing the game here. All right, so Bowl Call. We're going team by team in the AFC East. Our favorite players to draft, ones that we think are sleepers, and players we do not want to draft or avoid this season. Bowl Call.
Yeah, this is some of you are still drafting tonight. This is a big draft night and over the next couple of nights. And if you've already drafted, this is also probably pretty valuable for you because you could see who maybe to trade for, players that we like that are still under the radar of the sleepers. We're not just going to give you like these crazy sleepers that have no chance of panning out. This is going to be sound, actionable information that you can comb everyone's roster before the season kicks off and maybe pull off a few trades. And we'll tell you how to do that as well. So AFC, every team. Let's start with the AFC East, Geek. Who's your draft them, avoid them, and sleeper on the Bills? And of course, this is all relative to ADP.
All right, so here we go. Starting with the Bills, of course, we have some players we love. The draft him is Stefon Diggs. 30% target share in the Bills offense. He is a beast. Bills offense wants to throw a ton. There is no, he's a stud, and he has absolute ability to be the number one overall wide receiver this season. Stefon Diggs is your lock him down, draft him player.
In the first, draft him in the first round. Okay, so for me,
sleeper. You ready for the sleeper?
Mm-hmm.
Manny Sanders. It's just Manny being Manny. Okay, WR2 for the Bills. You can get him after the last round. As a matter of fact, if you've already drafted, he's available on the waiver wire because no one drafted him. 34 years old, but has done it before. WR2 upside at you could pick him up on waivers price point. Grab Manny Sanders as your sleeper. Cut him, Cole Beasley.
Avoid him. It's not a cut him. It's avoid him.
The real, I like them. All right, we'll call him the avoid him. Cole Beasley is your avoid him. He is he's been really productive over the last few years, and I know he's going to have productive games this season. But how are you going to really figure out when those games are going to happen? So you've got to leave Cole Beasley in your lineup. He's going to have a lot of duds. He will have those pop games, but with Manny Sanders there, potentially less action for Beasley. But most importantly, you just won't be able to time when those pop weeks are. So he's going to get you a lot of dud weeks along the way. Now, special nod to Dawson Knox as a cut him as well, but I don't think he's even worthy of a mention.
Well, we're talking about avoid him, not cut him, right? So let's get into some of the fantasy relevant guys on that team. The running backs. Are you drafting any Zach Moss or Devin Singletary? I mean, some running back is going to be valuable there, right? Or are you avoiding both of those guys?
I'm avoiding both of them because, I do think Zach Moss is the better play, but we haven't seen where the Bills offense is productive from the running back position at all. So I'm just avoiding both the running backs. So if we want to go more than just one player, I'll throw all of the running backs on the avoid them list as well. I don't want anything to do with Devin.
Those guys are so cheap at this point, though. Like Zach Moss is like an 11th round pick. Singletary is like 13th. I mean, I just added Zach Moss as my RB4 in a pretty important draft that I'm doing. So I'm in on him at that price. So he's not an avoid for me. I'm certainly doing that. But my expectation,
you never feel good about having him in your lineup.
We got a lot of
teams. A week where you're like, yes, I got Zach Moss.
I'm going to show you how this is done, Geek, because we got a lot of teams to do. So I'm going to take the Dolphins. Okay, draft them for me is Jalen Waddle at the price. Now, traditionally, rookies don't produce, but let's see with Waddle. You're not paying a top 6 round pick. You're paying a 7th, 8th round pick. If you don't like what you see in the first couple weeks, you could certainly cut him, trade him. So I think that he is worth drafting in the 8th round for some super muscle. My avoid him is Will Fuller. And I know that's crazy to hear from me, Geek, because I love Will Fuller. You love Will Fuller. But Will Fuller, he's already suspended for week 1, and then he's playing with Tua. I just, Will Fuller's getting pushed up a little bit. He's not like, he should be like a 14th round pick, 13th round pick. He's going in like the 9th, 10th round. There's players, there's tight ends, there's QBs I like there. So at his draft cost, with the new QB, Will Fuller this season, believe it or not, is an avoid him. And the sleeper on this team is somebody that nobody wants, and that's Devante Parker. He's still good. He's only 28 years old. He's in his peak. So that's the player that if you went early running back and you're really hurting for some wide receiver depth, I'm in on Devante Parker. Geek, you're up on the Jets.
All right. So taking a look at the Jets, it's not pretty out there, but my draft them is going to be Corey Davis. I think he's just a solid prospect. You're getting him as a WR 5-ish in your draft. He goes about WR 56. So that's right at the beginning of like the WR 5 levels. And we saw in the preseason that Wilson has no problem peppering Davis with targets. And he's the largest wide receiver on the team. He is a potential tight end. He's a red zone target, end zone target. I think he's going to score a lot of touchdowns this year. First round draft pedigree. I like Corey Davis this season. Sleeper is Elijah Moore. Also,
you are not playing this game right. It's draft him, avoid him, and then a sleeper.
All right, wait. All right.
So you did draft him was Corey Davis. Who's your avoid him?
See, I need like a little paper to explain it. All right, so draft him. So we're going second with the avoid him. The avoid him is the running game, and that means Tevin Coleman. That means Ty Johnson. That means LaMichael Pirine. That means Michael Carter. It's gross over there. Avoid them. Sleeper. Elijah Moore. Okay. Love me some more. A lot of these sleepers are going to be these rookie wide receivers. I love Moore. Obviously DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, college teammates of his both say he was the best of the three in terms of a route runner. That's high praise.
Okay, let's keep it moving though. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah.
We got a whole
more this year's Justin Jefferson.
Okay, New England Patriots to round out the AFC East. Draft them. You and I both agree Jacoby Myers is the closest thing the team has had to Julian Edelman in some time. I could easily see 80 catches for even just 800 yards and 6 touchdowns where you're getting him. That's perfectly fine. So the avoid him. I think Damien Harris is a little bit is getting expensive. He's going in like the 5th round right now, and that could be perfectly good. Just with the lack of PPR upside there, I'm a little nervous about him. And Ramondre Stevenson showed. He was a player that I liked during the pre-draft process. I was panned universally for thinking that he was anything more than a slug. So I think Ramondre Stevenson's a little bit more of a threat, even though he's a rookie running back than for Damien Harris than most think. And the sleeper in that, it's kind of an obvious call. Actually, it may not be, but Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, those tight ends, if you are playing the weight on tight end game, they are being forgotten. I think, people are pushing up Noah Fant, they're pushing up Logan Thomas, and for good reason, that's fine. But the sleeper, and it may not be like this, oh my God, I didn't think of him sleeper, but don't forget about the New England tight ends. They're going to be very useful for fantasy. All right, Geek, we're moving on to
Before we go to the next division, let's talk about Owner's Box real quick, the sponsor of this podcast, Owner's Box Weekly Fantasy Sports, where you can actually play Superflex fantasy football in a DFS format. It's a really cool format, actually. Owner's Box, I really like. Actually, says I've checked it out, and I really like the layout. I like the usability of their UI. The UI experience is really nice, and I remember thinking that back in the day when DraftKings first came out, like, ooh, this is a really nice user interface. So these guys really got it right with the user interface. I love the contest sizes too. They're sized in a winnable format, not too small where it's boring, but definitely not those gigantic, unwinnable monster tournaments that you see on some of the larger sites. And of course, my favorite thing is they're basically giving everybody $10 free to check out their site. So if you go to Owner's Box, use the link in the podcast description below. And you don't even have to make a deposit. You could just sign in with promo code Drew9. Drew Brees is one of their sponsors or partner. I don't know what the hell. He's
endorsing the product.
He's endorsing the product. So when you use promo code Drew9, you get $10. So you can basically play in the big week 1 contest for free. It's a no-brainer, guys. I love free money. Go sign up at Owner's Box. Use code Drew9. play in the week 1 contest for $10. And if you win, keep playing over there. If you don't, no loss, no harm, no foul. Go make a lineup right now over at Owner's Box.
Yep. And use Baker Mayfield in week 1 on Owner's Box. He's such a great value there, especially in Superflex. All right. So AFC West, Geek, you're up on the Broncos. Give me who's the player you're drafting at his cost every single time.
Draft is Jerry Jeudy. Easy call with Teddy KGB Bridgewater at the helm. Finally, some accuracy out of the quarterback position. Jeudy, couple of drops last season, but overall, one of the best route runners I've personally ever witnessed with my own eyes coming out of college. I am looking for a breakout from Jerry Jeudy this season. Avoid the running game. Okay? It's just gross over there. I don't think the team's going to be very good this year, says. And, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, it's going to be a back and forth affair. I do think one or the other will have good games, but until one actually gets hurt and the other one takes the full role.
Those guys are so cheap in drafts, though. I mean, Melvin Gordon's going like the 10th round of 1 QB leagues. You wouldn't draft with Melvin Gordon?
Again, I don't want the decision. Do I mind having him on the back of my bench? When we say avoid, I'm saying, listen, I don't want this guy as a starter for me. And I don't want to draft him with any sort of expectation that I've got to put him in my lineup because I don't know week to week who it's going to be. So I'm going to avoid on the running game for Denver until they get it figured out. I'm not interested in holding those two guys on my bet. I'm not sure which one's better or which one's going to have a better year if it's a full split, and that's not good for me. The sleeper. I mean, is a sleeper to say Noah Fant is a sleeper?
No, that is. I mean, he's getting pushed down. Yeah, I mean, he's going in like that tight end range of where Goddard was, Logan Thomas. If he's a very high upside guy. If you do miss on that elite tier.
Yeah, I like Noah Fant. He was an integral part of that offense. Again, under Drew Lock. Drew Lock, not very good. I think that Teddy Bridgewater is a better quarterback, and we might see even an uptick in the productivity for Fant this season.
Okay, I'm going to go up on the Raiders. The Raiders, for me, the draft them every time. I am back in on Josh Jacobs. He's falling. His price has just fallen too far. He was an avoid him when he was in the 3rd round when we started drafting, but now he's going into the 6th round. I mean, he is getting pushed down the board. He was a pass-catching running back in college. It's still within his range of outcomes. People are overreacting to the Drake news. I mean, Drake is going to play.
Is it an overreaction, though? Drake can do everything.
Right. Here's my question for you, Geek. If Drake is such a threat, why is Jacobs going in the 5th and 6th round and Drake going in the 11th round? If Drake was such a threat,
because Jacobs is a threat to Drake too. I mean, they threaten each other.
Right. So I'm just saying is that if you went heavy wide receiver early, like a lot of us that were advising the DFS Army to do, if you're going in your 1st round, going Devontae Adams, coming back with Calvin Ridley, and then hitting up Terry McLaurin in the 3rd round, and then in the 4th round, one of those George Kittle falls to you. That is happening in these leagues. When you get into those later rounds, you're going to need some running backs that have starting jobs. Josh Jacobs is the perfect. I've waited a little bit on running back, so I'm still in on him.
The price is finally fair, but I stand by the fade that we've had since early season when he was going in the 3rd and 4th round.
Fair enough. Avoid him for me, believe it or not, and it's a good player. I'm sorry to tell y'all, Darren Waller is an avoid, and not because he's not going to smash or be the number 1 tight end. He's going to be a great player, but I just don't like the way my rosters look you have to take him in the top 20 picks. And if you're a go tight end early player, then this is totally the wrong call for you. But for me, I just can't. My first 2 picks, I can't go tight end. I'm more than happy to pick through that Mark Andrews, Hawkinson, or even wait like we talked about. So I'm avoiding Darren Waller, but I understand why that may not be an optimal strategy for some of you. And for me, the sleeper, I mean, it's Bryan Edwards. You need to. Why isn't his ADP moved up? They released John Brown. The Raiders released their deep threat. Bryan Edwards profiles as the alpha. He should absolutely be one of your picks in the double-digit rounds. When you talk about 2nd-year players that have a chance to break out, he fits the profile. There's nothing about him. The only reason that he dropped in the real NFL draft was because he was injured. So make sure you're.
People don't realize that Bryan Edwards actually has draft capital too. I think that's
3rd round.
Goes over people's head. He's a 3rd round pick.
But he should have been a 2nd rounder.
Yeah, but a lot of good players emerge from the 3rd round. At wide receiver, a 3rd rounder is a solid draft capital. People forgot because Hank Ruggs was taken ahead of him, and when somebody goes ahead of him like that, he was the 2nd guy. But he was also taken in a spot where he has his own standalone draft capital. So I like the Bryan Edwards.
I'm going to give you your choice here. So Chiefs or Chargers, you get to pick what you're going to do.
Well, let's go Chargers with this one. And
you draft them.
My draft them is going to be, of course, Keenan Allen, a PPR machine. I think it's pretty obvious. A PPR machine was on pace for a monster season in those few games where he was healthy with Herbert last year. Literally looking like an alpha top 3 wide receiver for those games. Obviously, he got hurt last season. We haven't seen him full blast with Herbert, but this year, hopefully we will. And the guy's just a PPR monster. There's no real downside with Keenan Allen. The avoid, and you're not going to like this one, Austin Eckler.
You don't like Eckler as a first-round pick?
I'm worried about his durability. He's a smaller running back. He has had issues holding up year after year, time after time. The team has shown that they will not go to him with a 60 or 70% market share. When he was in the game last season, even last season with Herbert, and he was a monster because you get a lot of receptions, but he was really only in on about 40% of the snaps. So he's basically Kamara light in a sense, but a much smaller, more fragile version. I have questions about his durability, and you need to pay, and this is the issue. Oh, Geek sucks. He fucking hates Eckler. You have to pay a top 7 pick for Austin Eckler this year.
If you're picking on the 1-2 turn and Eckler's there in a 1 QB league, are you taking him then?
No. He's got durability issues. So if he's there, that means some other running backs dropped as well. So
that means the opposite. It means someone else reached up and grabbed Gibson.
Or they went for Kelsey and they went for Diggs and they went for Tyreek. There are leagues that happen that way, especially the expensive ones. So even when that's happening, a lot of times Jonathan Taylor might still be there. I'm worried about the durability of Austin Eckler. I'd rather have some guys that I think are a little bit safer in terms of their durability and their workload.
Yeah, Mike K in the chat asked about, are we worried about Dalvin Cook? I have no worries about Dalvin Cook outside of the normal running back injuries. I am picking him at pick 2 in every one of my drafts. And again, if he gets hurt, every running back has injury risk.
There's a standard injury risk that we apply to every single running back. Dalvin Cook is right there. He's been hurt. He definitely wears down a little bit, but he gets a big workload. And Austin Eckler this guy gets hurt a lot. Like almost every year he's gotten hurt when he's gotten a few too many carries. So I think the elevated injury risk for Eckler is my issue. And of course the sleeper is Mike Williams. I actually love Mike Williams this season. I think we might see the vaulted Devante Parker style 5th-year breakout out of Mike Williams. He's shown he's good. He has not shown to where he has problems. He catches the passes that are thrown to him. His issue has been volume and injury. So let's see if we can get through this year and be a stud with a stud quarterback.
Okay, for me, I am doing the Chiefs to finish out the AFC West. I am, for the same reason I told you to avoid Darren Waller. Now, this, again, is you don't have to avoid Travis Kelce. It's just I'm not a Travis Kelce drafter. I just don't like the way my drafts turn out. So for me, he's an avoid. That's, I
thought we're supposed to start with the draft and then avoid, and then the sleeper. You're messing up the whole.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. So my draft. No, you're right. My draft him is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, nothing's changed since last year. Last year he was being overdrafted in the first round. He was going as a top 5 pick. You and I knew that was wrong. We talked about how if he was. I look back at an old video we made, and we liked him as a 3rd round pick. And then when he got pushed up to the 2nd, we liked him. But then when he got pushed up to the 3rd, we did not. So were you getting him?
Yeah. By the time the draft happened, he was like top 6.
Yeah, again, he may not end up being like this elite running back that we hope that a Chiefs running back is, but if things just go modestly right, he's in a good, what do we talk about all the time? Good offense, good player. He has some pass catching ability. The problem is Patrick Mahomes doesn't always check down. Sometimes on 3rd and 7, he'll just run himself. But if things break the right way, CEH could be a top 3, top 5 running back. So he's our draft him. Avoid him. I told you, Travis Kelce, he's a great player, and I won't fault you for taking him, but I'm not taking him in the 1st round. And the sleeper, Mecole Hardman is just, where he's going in drafts, it's now or never. It's year 3. He has to break out. It's there, you're taking him in the 10th round, 9th round. In your home league, you might get him in the 11th or 12th. Patrick Mahomes has to throw to somebody else besides those 2 players, right? So if you're looking for a sleeper, there's worse things you could do than getting a wide receiver attached to the Patrick Mahomes arm. All right, Geek. We're on to the next. We're doing AFC North, draft them, avoid them, and sleepers. You're up on the Ravens.
All right, Ravens, baby. First, the clear and obvious draft them for me is Gus Edwards. As long as you're not in one of these crazy leagues where he's being pushed up to the third round or something like that, Gus Edwards, no competition anymore from J.K. Dobbins. It's going to come in, and while the Ravens will bring in backups, I think the carry share for Gus Edwards is going to be spectacular. He has actually been numerically one of the better running backs in the league. He's averaging over 5 yards per carry for his career. Those are really good numbers. So Gus Edwards, an actual talented running back, and that's the difference between him and a lot of these weird backup situations. Grab Gus Edwards, especially if it's not a PPR league where touchdowns are king, but expect a lot of touchdown upside for Edwards this season. The avoid for me is Marquise Brown. He's just too up and down as a player. He's been that way throughout his career. You can never really count on when that game is coming that he is going to pop. And on the same note, the sleeper for me is Rashad Bateman. Bateman is much more of a possession wide receiver. I think he's injured. Is he injured coming into?
Yeah, he's going to be on. He's going to be out at least the first month of the season. Yeah, so I don't think you can draft him.
Forgotten player, right?
Yeah, but don't draft him. Don't draft him.
No, he's a sleeper. Just let's keep in mind. Remember that this guy exists, and weeks 3 or 4 of the season when he's about to come back, you want to scour the waiver wire, pick him up, and just stash him on your bench. He's a very talented. He's a first round pedigree wide receiver, very talented, and is the possession type wide receiver that can actually deliver consistent results. So he's a sleeper. You will actually fall asleep and forget about him because he will be on the waiver wire in your league. Don't forget to pick him up week 3 or 4. It's an easy pickup that could turn into a really, really solid WR3 on your team.
Bengals, for me, draft them. I'm in on T. Higgins. I don't know how. For a while, Jamar Chase was going ahead of him in drafts. I think that's self-corrected. T. Higgins, with bad quarterback play, broke out last year. Was startable every week. He is every bit the alpha. Went the first pick of the second round. It's amazing that Green Bay passed on him and Justin Jefferson to take Jordan Love last year. Could you imagine what T. Higgins would be looking like in an Aaron Rodgers offense opposite Devante Adams? It would just be so good. Avoid him. Since February, I've been saying don't draft Joe Burrow. Doesn't matter the format. Yet you and I still saw him go in the first round of Superflex leagues. It is just such a bad pick. He tore his ACL, MCL, and had other structural damage in week 11 last year. People are nervous about Saquon Barkley, who tore his ACL in like week 3 or something like that. I just do not draft Joe Burrow in any format this year. It's going to be a slow start. And in one quarterback league, there's so many options out there. Take Fields, take Lance, wait on one of those guys, but absolutely do not draft Joe Burrow because of the slow start that I fully expect him. And sleeper, how do you call someone a sleeper here? But you're gonna die, Geek. You hate Joe Mixon, right? I know Joe Mixon
is a sleeper. That's not a sleeper.
Well, no, hold on. So if you hate Joe Mixon as much as the Geek does, what you need to do is draft Samaje Perine.
No.
Samaje Perine, I've taken him in the last round of a lot of drafts. When you want one of our favorite fantasy football strategies is to load up the last 3 or 4 picks of our draft with running backs that are one injury away. Last year, Samaje Perine showed that he can be effective even with this terrible offensive line. And when there's going to be a murderer's row of injuries, bye weeks, COVID stuff going on this year, you're going to want guys. And Samaje Perine, nobody wants him. You can get him in the last round of your draft, and he's absolutely one injury away from an injury-prone Joe Mixon and having a role. So he would be a sleeper that I wouldn't even mind drafting in the 16th round just to see what happens early. You are up on the Browns.
All right, the Browns. Okay, so this is a tricky one, but my draft him is Nick Chubb. Listen, this guy, I get it. He doesn't catch a lot of passes. It doesn't matter. The Browns want to run the football. And Nick Chubb is one of the most talented running backs in the National Football League. He consistently delivers, above expectation performances. He's a touchdown machine, and they feed him the ball, even though he is in a timeshare type backfield with Kareem Hunt. Speaking of Kareem Hunt, my avoid is Kareem Hunt. I'm not down with Kareem, man. I am not down with Kareem Hunt. I think he gets drafted too high for a backup running back. Yes, Kareem Hunt puts up occasional quality scores, but overall, I just don't want him. I think where you're getting Kareem Hunt, you can actually get still starting running backs. Mike Davis is still available in your draft at that point. There are guys like Myles Gaskin that are floating around. Kareem Hunt to me is like a handcuff that goes at the price of an actual starting running back.
Yeah, there's no difference between Kareem Hunt and A.J. Dillon, who you can get 3 or 4 rounds later, right?
Yeah, I mean, no, Kareem Hunt probably will produce better as a flex play if you just drop him in there because he's
Don't be so sure. I think when they get on the goal line, AJ, but that's fine. This is your
But yeah, thing, you know what I'm saying? But like, I just don't, I don't have any shares of Kareem Hunt. I have nothing. And so I've avoided him. Now on the Browns, when we talk about a sleeper, is this a sleeper? Jarvis Landry continues to produce year after year, season after season. You get him so late. He is the stinkiest of stinky cheese wide receivers. I don't know why, but I mean, you might have said Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'm not trying to go that deep. I'm saying
I agree. I agree with your assessment. I just got Jarvis Landry in like the 14th round, and that's not happening. In sharper leagues, he's going in the 8th round. So.
No one likes Jarvis Landry, and that's been his whole career, all the way back to Miami. No one likes Jarvis Landry. PPR guy. I don't know why. Juice. If you saw that season of Hard Knocks with the Juice, you would like him more, but you didn't watch that shit.
I watched Hard Knocks.
Not you. I'm saying you, the viewer.
Yeah,
you, the draft.
Hard Knocks is getting. Are you watching it this season? It's
I haven't watched it.
It's a little boring. I do have to say,
they've gotten rid of too much of the drama.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid, but I'm still watching it. So if you're a Hard Knocks fan, don't at me. I'm still watching it.
Seen it this year.
Yep. All right. So for me, we're going to finish out the AFC North with the Steelers. Draft him. I'm in on Najee Harris. Just the volume he's too big to fail. There's no way that doesn't. Harris. Yeah. I mean, even in the first round, you're picking a pick 8 and you think Gibson's too risky. Just take Najee Harris then. Najee Harris is going to be fine. His floor is like RB15. He will return second round value if everything goes wrong. If everything goes right, I mean, he's probably the favorite to lead the NFL in carries, him or Derrick Henry, right? I mean, it's got to be one of the two.
Listen, I don't know about leading the NFL in carries. He's going to be a 3-down back on a
okay,
team.
So what running back do you think? How many running backs do you name that you're certain? Like, is he top 5? Who?
Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin
No,
Cook.
I disagree. I think Christian McCaffrey won't even crack the top 5 in carries. I don't. He's not like a 300 carry running back, Christian McCaffrey. He does get passes, but he's probably more like a 215, 220 carry.
I'm talking about touches, just straight up touches. And I think Najee Harris is the same kind of guy. He's going to get receptions.
But anyway,
as much as carries, like the carries are less valuable than the receptions.
You can see
Najee Harris.
You can see, and listen, Christian McCaffrey is so efficient with his touches, and there's no question about it that he is going to produce and have all the high value touches. But I could see a situation where he gets like 200 carries this year and still has his 80 catches, and he's going to be top 5. But when you talk about just pure touches, pure rushes, Najee Harris has to be. You're going to get great odds on him. You know, I mean, he's probably 5th or 6th down there, and he could end up being the touch leader, the rush leader. I keep saying that.
Pull up that prop. Maybe that's a prop we can smash.
Yep. All right. So that's my draft him. My avoid him for obvious reasons is Juju Smith-Schuster. He had to beg to come back on the team. He's not been effective when he plays outside. They are showing you that they're going to use Deontay Johnson in the slot. It's going to be Juju and Claypool outside. Now with Najee Harris there, he's going to operate a little bit in the middle of the field too. Eric Ebron and the rookie Pat Freiermuth, they both are going to play in the red zone. I don't think the upside's there for Juju like it once was. I hope I'm wrong because I do like him as a player, and I would like to see him on another team. He was trying to he almost signed with Kansas City in the offseason, and then smartly, he just wanted to take a 1-year deal and hit free agency next year. So he's my avoid him. My sleeper on the team, I just said it already, and normally rookie tight ends don't produce, but I liked what I saw from Pat Freiermuth, the rookie out of Penn State in the preseason. Ben Roethlisberger likes big, tall targets. That's why Eric Ebron was effective, but I think he might be dust. Pat Freiermuth would be the tight end 1 in most draft classes, and for fantasy football, I never draft a rookie tight end. Obviously, Kyle Pitts was the exception this year. We're taking him if he falls to value, but Pat Freiermuth, I could see him being on the waiver wire as a pickup if you're playing the tight end roulette game.
I was going to say, he's not a draftable player, so that's a guy that just keep an eye on him as a sleeper, but, more likely than not, because he's a tight end, look for that like productivity to start happening maybe week 8, You know,
I mean, the minute you see him
well
get,
into the season.
the minute you see Pat Freiermuth get 4 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown, just pick him up.
Yeah,
I mean,
be ready.
Be
Don't
ready.
draft him though. Do not draft.
All right. So AFC South. This is our last 4 teams. I'm going to let you pick which team you want to go.
Wait, AFC.
It's the Titans, the Jaguars, the Colts, and the Texans.
All right. So let's go with the Texans. Right.
Okay.
I don't have a draft him.
You're not drafting it. Then why did you pick them?
Because I want to fucking avoid this team like the plague. Don't draft anybody.
Do you want me to give you a draft them on the Texans? Can I give you one? And then you could
Nico Collins, like what?
No.
Brandon Cooks. People are going to say Brandon Cook. Hell no.
All right, well, no, I that's not who my draft him is.
All right.
In the 14th round, listed on the top of the RB depth chart is Philip Lindsay. He's a good running back. You and I both like him. If you're looking for players that listen, somebody's got to score. Even if they end up with 13 points,
score. They're not going to score.
I'm just saying, Philip Lindsay's a draft him for me in the 14th round right now.
All right, you know what? It's miraculous that you found to draft him.
Do you agree with that?
Continue with it, but avoid him is Brandon Cooks. This guy, what? It's Tyrod Taylor at the quarterback. They're not going to throw the football more than 14 to 16 times a game. Brandon Cooks is being talked up everywhere as this late pick that can win you your leagues. No, he won't. And he's not even that late. He's going ahead of Corey Davis. He's going ahead of players that are actually going to be good on at least decent teams. He's going ahead of Mike Williams. No. And if anybody's telling you that you should be, and they are, that you should be drafting Brandon Cooks this season, turn the channel. He's not going to do well. Tyrod Taylor doesn't throw the football very often, and Brandon Cooks is old. There's no point for them to push him. The only way he has a productive year is if he gets traded. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but beyond
what team
that,
do you think would trade for him?
Who would be a team that needs a wide receiver? I mean,
Kansas City.
Kansas City would be great. If that happened, it would be great, and they do need a wide receiver, Kansas City. But I'm trying to think what other teams could really use a wide receiver.
How about Tennessee? Use another one. Go with a triple threat.
Nah, it's too much over there. They're not doing that. But that wouldn't be impressive. But like,
how about the Detroit Lions? They could use a wide receiver. Would you like him if he was with Goff on a bad team?
I would like him more. If he, any team is better than the Texans. Like I said, Tyrod Taylor, I've watched him for enough years to know he will not support a quality wide receiver outcomes over the course of a season.
All right,
so
then we need a sleeper on here, and I think we could both agree a sleeper on the Texans is Nico Collins. He's every bit the alpha profile, and if for some reason, if Tyrod Taylor just trusts him and throw it up, we know Nico Collins is going to shove everyone out of the way and just at least fall into about 6 touchdowns just on his athleticism alone. So Nico Collins is somebody that you're probably not going to draft in your typical 16-round draft, but just be ready, because if he does break out week 1, he's somebody that you're going to want.
At least with Nico Collins, he's on waivers. So again, you're not actually using a valuable draft pick. Or if you're in a best ball league, you're taking him with your very, very last pick in your best ball league. So
the other thing is, if they do solve the Deshaun Watson thing and he does play a few games, Nico Collins immediately has a top 5 quarterback playing with him. So there is some upside there.
The other thing is, I expect that Tyrod Taylor, something weird will happen and they'll bring in maybe the rookie or something like that. So at some point over the course of the season, they may get some productivity from the passing game. But again, the problem for me going back to Brandon Cooks is you're not talking about a guy you're getting with your last pick. You're talking about using a real 10th round pick on a guy. That's where the mistake is in play. So if Brandon Cooks was available on waivers, fine, pick him up. But don't waste a 10th, a 9th, and 11th round pick on a guy who's going to be catching pass. You'll drop him before you ever get productivity. So
all right.
The opportunity cost is no good.
All right. I'm going to do the Jaguars. Jaguars, draft him for me. I mean, his ADP, similar to Najee Harris, Trevor Lawrence is too big to fail. He is going to be starting from day 1. He is going to be playing all 17 games. And he's the generational prospect. Now, when you're taking him at QB 14, don't expect a top 5 season. I don't think it's possible this year. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. I don't think it's likely this year. You're drafting him and you're looking at like your 18 to 22 point weeks every single week. You may have a 16-pointer here and there, but the couple 30s are coming your way too. Trevor Lawrence is a really good prospect. And I think that's been forgotten about because everybody's really excited about Lance and Fields and even Zach Wilson, who's gotten a lot of hype. People forget, but that Lawrence is a great pick at value. In your one quarterback league, if you're playing the weight on quarterback game, that is the target this year. That's the guy you want. I mean, because he is not going to lose the job. He
will burn your food like Florence.
Yes, right.
He'll run up in your crib like his name was Search Warrants.
Love it.
Trevor Lawrence.
My avoid him is going to be DJ Shark. DJ Shark is kind of like a fake alpha, right? He's supposed to be the alpha on his team, but he's kind of like a receiver posing as an alpha. Now, he had that great season 2 years ago, which we loved him in the last round of our drafts. We called the 1,000-yard breakout, but there's just too many other good options, and this coaching staff is not committed to making him the alpha. Laviska Shenault is going to be there. Marvin Jones has looked every bit like the veteran and has played the part of the alpha. They're going to throw to James Robinson. I just think that DJ Shark, if he's going in the 6th and 7th round, I'd rather just wait. And I know that's like a common fantasy football theme. Just wait for the cheapest guy, but really wait for the cheapest guy. Take Marvin Jones in this, and that's my sleepers. Marvin Jones. He's old, nobody wants him, but he's productive. He's good for a couple multi-touchdown games. He still has it, and the rookie quarterback is certainly going to rely on him. All right, moving on.
I can't let you get through that one without just interjecting that James Robinson is really the draft him on this team. He's going way lower than he should in your fantasy draft. And that's
let me ask you a question here about James Robinson. Somebody asked me in the DFS Army Discord this morning, would you prefer James Robinson or Terry McLaurin in the 3rd round if you've already taken one wide and one running back?
I mean, it's Terry McLaurin.
That's what I said too.
But James Robinson is right there too. I got to compare him with running backs really. And I like him even more than like a David Montgomery. James Robinson was a beast last season for this team. He got a ton of volume. How much of a real threat is Carlos Hyde? Carlos Hyde,
he's a threat. Just so you know, he's a threat.
But I don't think he's a threat for the featured role. I think he's a threat for getting some goal line carries, getting some dirty work in the in the middle of the field. Robinson will be in there on the passing downs. He will get the sexy fantasy scoring snaps. And even if he goes from an 85% snap count to a 75% or a 70% snap count, because I don't really see Carlos Hyde taking more than 30% of those snaps, I think James Robinson's going to deliver great value for where you're getting him now, really in the end of the 3rd, 4th round at times. He just dropped too low. I think there's no difference between him and a lot of these other running backs that are going ahead of him. James Robinson is he should be drafted on that team. So I don't want to let that go without that mention. I have a lot of exposure to James Robinson, so I better be right.
The reason that I didn't mention him as a draft him is because I'm kind of neutral on him. He's not a proactive draft for me. He's he has to fall to me. I'm not reaching ahead of guys like Terry McLaurin or CeeDee Lamb or any of those guys to go get him. And that's really what the definition of a draft him is. A draft him is go reach ahead.
I see him falling beyond those guys and most of the.
Yeah, sure. If he falls to you, then absolutely. Yeah. Again, that's my point is that you're not reaching up ahead of them to go get him. So he's not a draft him. He's just take what the room gives you type of player. So on the Colts, for me, draft him as Jonathan Taylor. I don't care what the cost is. I would take him in the top 5. I'm debating seriously between him and Derrick Henry. I probably would default to Henry there just because it's the guaranteed workload. But here, let's not overthink this, right? Jonathan Taylor is in the peak, came on strong last year, and you got to skate where the puck is going type of thing. Jonathan Taylor,
defensive team, going to be in close games. The running back will be on the field.
Yeah, so don't worry. If Jonathan Taylor is falling to the end of the 1st round, just click the button. Yes, that's who you're drafting. You're avoid him on this team, Geek. Who's your avoid him for the Colts?
For the Colts, the avoid him. The quarterback. So not
taking Wentz is still getting drafted. Yeah, in Superflex. How about in Superflex? You're not taking him, right?
I don't think he's good, dude. I think he's bad. I think he's a bad quarterback. And could Frank Reich fix him? Maybe, but do I want to gamble even a Superflex QB2 spot on him? Man, hell no.
You know what's funny? It's exposure. Every year there's the classic quarterback new environment guy, and he's the new environment guy.
Yeah,
this year.
I get that it's a new environment.
What I'm just saying is I think it's not going to work.
Yeah. And then the sleeper on the team is
you had
Michael
someone
Pittman
peeking in. You had can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. I think there was someone peeking in your room from behind you.
Yeah, I saw.
Who was it? Who was peeking in?
My daughter. I got to take her to lunch soon.
So okay, all right. So let's finish this up. So then, who's your sleeper on this team?
My sleeper is Michael Pittman. WR1, T.Y. Hilton could be done for the whole season. Michael Pittman is available in that corridor. That's that same WR50 zone that I love this season, right? There's a real gross zone at wide receiver between I'm going to say between 15 and 25. And then it gets interesting again because there are going to be all these productive wide receivers this year. We just don't know exactly who that's going to be. A lot of these guys, we haven't seen it before. Michael Pittman is one of those. We've seen flashes of brilliance out of the player. He has the size. He has the body type. He has a lot of qualities that really, really look good for a WR1. We haven't quite seen it yet from him. We've seen, like I said, flashes, but I think he can elevate. And he's one of those guys that you get like WR5 on your team that could wind up being a WR2. Like he could wind up like helping your team win a championship where you're like, yeah, I got Pittman in there, motherfuckers. Like he's that guy that's going to rise up from like 4K on DraftKings to like 6,900, 7K by the end of the season. And you're like, wow, this guy's like a stud now. And he was being, I got him at a bargain price. That's what you want.
I like Paris Campbell a little later too for the same reasons.
Sleeper of a sleeper right there.
Yeah, he's like, all right, last team is the Titans. The draft them for me, I'm taking AJ Brown anytime he falls to me in the second round. And if I'm picking on the 1-2 turn, I'm probably going to reach, it would be tough for me to take him above Calvin Ridley, but I would certainly take him above DeAndre Hopkins. I know that the target volume has not been there for him yet, but he's so efficient, and he is like the Terrell Owens type. I was like, this is like one of the next superstars in the NFL, and I think Ryan Tannehill is a really good passer. I'm not going to like go crazy and just push people out of the way, but in the second round, if I've taken a running back in the first round, it's just going to be hard for me not to draft AJ Brown for all of the obvious reasons.
You love that start where you're Christian McCaffrey, then on the turn, and this happens. You smash some AJ Brown, and then you have to make the dreaded: do I go zero? Do I go like hybrid RB, or do I grab? And usually we do. Like I said, we're grabbing like AJ Brown, or like Justin Jefferson, or AJ Brown and Keenan Allen, or AJ Brown and Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
You double tap the wide receiver. You got Christian McCaffrey, double tap wide receiver. And it works too if you get Dalvin Cook. First 3 picks, you can kind of pull this off.
Yeah, if you get an anchor RB, a hero RB instead of zero RB.
RB, double tap the wide receiver around 2-3. Then come back strategy with some of these pretty decent 4th and 5th round running backs.
My avoidum is Julio Jones. I just have no faith he could stay on the field, and he's still going at wide receiver 17. You're having to take him on the 3-4 turn. It's just a little rich for me. Julio's going to produce what he's out there. There's no doubt about it, but it's like I have so many leagues right now, and the last thing I want to do is just follow along the injury report for Julio Jones. He'll be perfectly fine, but he would need to be like a 4th or 5th round pick for me in order to take him, which that means I'm not getting him. And the sleeper for me, the sleeper for me is Anthony Ferkser. There's no tight end there. He catches passes. He had a little bit of a breakout last year with like 600 yards and just a couple touchdowns. He had a big game. So if you're playing the weight on tight end game, he probably won't even get drafted, but he's one of the tight ends that I'm interested in at the end. Geek, we did it.
AFC, baby.
Yeah, we'll come back either tomorrow or later today with an NFC version of this. Just give us our outro, talk about Owner's Box, why people should go play on them, the Superflex Weekly Fantasy Sports League.
Yeah, of course. Reminder, we talked about it already. Superflex format, Owner's Box. It's basically like FanDuel DraftKings, the same style of daily fantasy sports, but, a little bit less sharky and a format that we really like. We legitimately prefer Superflex. So on Owner's Box, you can really set up. What I love about it is with Superflex, you can set up double correlation. You can set up so much correlation. Like I don't have to have any wide receivers on my team that aren't tied to a quarterback. They're all tied to a quarterback. I go, you keep mentioning week 1, Mahomes, Baker Mayfield.
Running it back. So you get Odell Beckham in the same lineup. You've got Tyreek Hill in there with Travis Hardman. Get Hardman in there.
Or Mecole Hardman. Everybody's going to – I've just been writing up my week 1 notes over at DFS Army, and that's a reminder as well. So after you get signed up at Owner's Box, you go sign up at DFS Army. We are about to launch all of our NFL week 1 DFS content. You've got to be in it. I did a 2-hour live stream last night, back testing with the Domination Station optimizer, going through all of the weeks of last season. looking at the settings we would have needed. We found some really consistent settings we can use that with just a couple tweaks pretty much produced a Millie Maker winner almost every week of the back test. So we were able to get those lineups to back test. And that's what we do in DFS Army. We have the whole crew together, our subscribers in the stream, working it as well. That's how we do it. We're teaching how to use the tools. It's literally different than every other site. Nobody does this. This is something that you only get at DFS Army. We teach our subscribers how to smash. That's why our screenshots of winners, our millionaire winners, our 100K winners, our 250K winners are not our pro staffers. They're our subscribers. It's a total different experience than other DFS advice sites. Get signed up at DFS Army, promo code GEEK, 10% off. NFL season, it's $199, 12-month pass if all you do is NFL. If you do all sports, it's $69.99 a month. One of the best deals in DFS advice and tools in existence. Nobody even comes near our price point. We price it for regular Joes to be able to crush. So get signed up.
Okay. And by the way, if you're not going to sign up, which we hope you do, if you want to support this live stream, this podcast, just click the like button, click the heart. That's good enough. I mean, obviously we want you to go over there and be part of our community, but for some reason, if you're not going to do it or you're just enjoying the content, that's how you help us out. Just click the heart for obvious reasons, like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be doing a ton of free stuff all year long. So
there we go. We will be back with the NFC portion of this
later today, maybe or maybe
today, probably
tomorrow.
On YouTube tomorrow. So we'll be back with that as well. Good luck with your drafts, everybody.